All right, I'm Nick. Today was day 2 of the 3-day MirrOlure challenge, right? 17 MR, random color out of the bag. You guys saw the video yesterday. Jamie and I go fishing. Now, I could have spaced this out and I could have picked 3 perfect fishing days, and that would have changed the results. But I wanted to do it for just 3 straight days, okay? And really, we have been taking Jamie fishing so we could teach things about inshore fishing to Jamie with the goal of him helping out with charters in the spring. Now, there's a lot to learn when you go inshore fishing. So there's a lot of things that I need him to see. I don't necessarily need to see or have him see the right answer. I need him to learn what the wrong answer is. That is the most important thing. So today's lesson on what's wrong, because conditions this morning were a lot different than yesterday. Now, yesterday was windy, but it was also 55 plus degrees of sun up, which isn't really a cold front to the fish, doesn't really change the water temperature too much. It drops it a little bit. But this morning, it was 18 to 18 mile per hour winds, or gusting 18 miles per hour. The tide was lower, which I'll tell you how the tide is lower in a second. And it was 32 degrees when I woke up this morning. Okay, there was ice on my windshield. I had to, had to defrost the windows before we left. It was cold for Northwest Florida. That was our first real cold front. Not, it got a little chilly, actual cold front of the year, and that affects the fish. Now, what else was different today than yesterday was there was zero cloud cover. Yesterday it was cloudy, wonderful, which created a low light situation all morning, and it helped us get on a few quality trout, the striper, the slot red, and so on. Today, we needed Jamie to see that there was no clouds. Okay, that is a huge thing, right? If it is cold, no clouds, all these variables, the water level super low, it was low tide, but it was super low. And the reason it was super low is, think about it like this. When we have a north wind here in the panhandle, the wind is pushing all the water offshore, right? So once the tide goes out and then the tide tries to come back in, the north wind stops that water from coming back in the pass, and it keeps the water in the Gulf headed south. That lowers the water level. Then when the tide goes to come back in, it's fighting a north wind the whole time. It never really fills back up. So the next day, or day 2 or day 3, that tide will be even lower than it was on day 1 of the north wind. So this morning, the water was super low, which means it was fresher in some areas of the river. There was no salt water in the river. It was just fresh water. I wanted Jamie to see that places that had saltwater fish yesterday didn't have any saltwater fish. So we hit the water, same spot, same place. We went a little earlier and we ended up fishing for 3 hours, okay? It wasn't terribly cold. Obviously, we were dressed correctly. We didn't get wet, so it wasn't terribly cold. I was still hoping that we could stick a trout or two and make that part successful. But we picked our 2 random 17 MRs, as you can see here. Pick your lure. All right, my hands are full. Pick my lure. Oh yeah, I like that color though. Both of those colors are pretty good, okay? I've always been a fan of that purple Chartreuse broken glass, so I was lucky enough to get that one. So I already had some kind of confidence with it. I knew it would catch fish, even though I'm pretty confident that every color MirrOlure will catch a fish, okay? We go out, and the first fish I catch was a shell cracker. Now, a shell cracker is just a large brim or a red-eared sunfish, okay? In the South, we call them shell cracker, okay? Boom, caught it on the MR, 17 MR. First fish. Now, it was only one, and it was a good fish. It was definitely the size of my hand, and I was like, well, that's a fluke. We won't catch another one of those. We caught 7 of these things, okay? Here's a video of a few of them right here. You'll see gorgeous fish, right? Jamie caught them on his. I caught them on mine. They were all really good size. They would have made an amazing dinner. We did let them all go. And then we caught those 7 throughout the morning, okay? We caught some largemouth bass. Remember, they're small. We're not up in here, up in this little slough of a river to catch monsters. Sometimes the trout will stack up in there, but the wind's been so bad, we just had to hide from the wind. Gusting 18 miles per hour makes it hard to get to fishing location, and it makes it hard to fish those places, right? A lot of our bodies of water are big bay systems, and sometimes you got to pedal across the bay or pedal across the river mouth, and it just makes things difficult with that wind, especially when it was out of the northwest. Northwest, obviously the northwest wind brought that cold front, causes some problems. Okay, so we were just hiding from the wind. Jamie was able to land his first and second chain pickerel or grass pickerel relative to the pike. Same species, same family, right? Just a whole lot smaller. He did catch a 22 incher. You guys can see here. Nice fish. They're fun to catch. They fight good. Kind of shake their head. They kind of jump out of the water, especially in the summertime. They don't really fight too hard when the water's cold. Caught another striper, but it was only about 15 inches, so I didn't measure it. But it was a good morning to go out and learn, and I didn't want to take this video series and just show you guys us hammering fish, because I used, excuse me, I used to think I knew a lot about fishing. And there's a lot of guys who live here locally who they think they know a lot about fishing. In reality, they probably fish 2 to 3 times a month if it's a good month. And I used to fish more than that, and I thought I knew a lot. I learned so much more when I had to do it for a living. And it's a lot of things people don't understand. I know I've openly disagreed with people in the past on Facebook, and that's why I stay out of those Facebook groups, right? Because the people doing the commenting usually have zero idea what they're talking about. You learn so much more when you're able to go do it every day. So I wanted you guys to see, even under some circumstances, we fail or struggle to catch fish. And now in 100% truthfulness, I never would have ran a charter this morning, and I wouldn't have fished for myself, right? Taking Jamie fishing to show him what we're going to do in the future, he needs to see the failures. It has to be learned, because you can see it and go, okay, I saw that. I spent 3 hours out there in the cold for the first cold front. The water was super low. There was no clouds. It was just full moon. Remember, full moon last night. The moon sets as the sun's coming up, and it's full moon, so the fish could see all night. And then first thing, boom, full go sun. Those are terrible conditions. Now, to see the largemouth and the shell cracker, the chain pickerel, the striper out there just crushing that little 17 MR is still great. That bait was doing a fantastic job. It was getting hit. We were catching fish, and those freshwater fish they didn't care about the moon. They didn't care about the cold. They didn't care about the sun. They were going at it, and that was good to see. Salinity level was a little low because of all the fresh water and how deep we were in the fresh water and how low the tide was. Very interesting. Those are things you need to take into consideration. Tomorrow is day 3 of the 17 MR challenge, and we're just going to go, okay? We're going to go to a different location. Obviously, the goal here all winter is to get Jamie to see different things. I'm like a chaperone. I kind of just take him around and point out the things that he should notice, which will help him catch more fish and make him have the ability to take people fishing in the spring and catch quality fish. So day 3, we're going to go trout fishing. We're going to go to a different location, and ideally we catch some trout. If we were smart, we're not, because we have a business to run in the evenings most of the time and package your guys' orders and all that stuff. We would fish in the evening because the tide's going to come back in, and you can see this tide chart. Tide coming back in. Realistically, we should fish the afternoon. It's just not in the cards because of the business. So we're picking the most challenging part of the day. It'll be cold again, and so on. It'll be fun. I appreciate you guys watching the series. Who likes to go catch shellcracker or red ear sunfish? They are fun to catch, man, and they're tasty, realistically, but we let them all go. I appreciate you guys watching. Leave me a comment. Tell me if you like to go fish for shellcracker.